someone in the top 10 has cheated at some point. I would bet a lot on this.
And Kramnik will still be the only one who is fighting.
Kramnik will not be happy in this scenario, but most people will still be okay with the whole situation.
Hi, Fabiano.
Hi.
That's the very, very glad to see you. Thanks for agreeing to talk to me and Russian viewers as we say in Russian, my face. I represent Russia.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Of course, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just realized we're talking during the most important tournament which is going on right now. Of course, Title Tuesday is. You miss Title Tuesday. Do you play often? You play like almost every time, yeah?
I usually skip the early one, and I think it's just better to not spend all my time during the day playing Title Tuesday. But I did see it was
Okay.
going on. I even watched a few seconds of Vladimir's stream before joining this call.
Yeah, that's something you wouldn't miss, yeah.
Of course.
No, he told me he cannot do it properly because he cannot speak as he plays chess.
Yeah, well, I also don't enjoy streaming so much. I mean, it's definitely a skill to be able to explain your moves or talk during. I think like a lot of players, they don't even explain their moves. They just say stuff which is entertaining for the viewers, and
Yeah.
and then they're playing their game. But even that is some sort of skill to just be able to talk nonstop.
Yeah, but lately you are having so much, as I see it, you are having so much fun talking about chess. Yeah.
No, in general,
So it's something new. It's something new that appeared in your life a few years ago.
no, in general, I enjoy talking about chess. I really love the game, not just playing it, but also studying chess, talking about it, thinking about it, and sharing my thoughts. I'm not really like a chess teacher or anything like that. I don't know if I would be good at this, but I do enjoy, let's say, giving some of my knowledge to other people, and also talking about chess in general, not just the moves or the games, but also about things that happen in the chess world, talking to interesting chess players or personalities, because everyone has their own story or stories, and chess has a rich history, of course, not just in modern chess, but going back in the historical annals of chess. So it's yeah, definitely I have a lot of passion for the game.
Do you still study history of chess, like old games, old tournaments, or something like that?
Sometimes when something really interests me, something, and it'll be totally spontaneous. Like I'll think about a certain player from the past, or I'll see a game, and then I'll wonder like what happened in this tournament. How good was the player? This is always a very interesting topic, because a lot of
Yeah.
players of the past, of course, we might not have so much experience with them, especially if they're not the world champions or the most well-known players. So sometimes it's actually there was an interesting discussion recently I had with some of the chess players I work with, and it was to rank the best chess player by letter, by last name. So
Bye.
by letter, so going alphabetically. So for example,
Okay.
A, B, C, and of course for K, it's super unfortunate for all the great K players that there is Gary.
Super tight.
Yeah,
Super tight.
it's
Struggle.
but there were some like very very interesting ones, and yeah, it gets you to think
So
about
like A, we can name like Averbach or
well
somebody. Yeah.
Anand. If
Anant is good. Anant is
if we're
good.
going for but yeah, it's some letters are of course quite
Matvinik
interesting.
for B. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting game. We were playing recently on some stream. We were playing a game with Daniel Dubov to name for example, I told you the rating list of 1982, and you have to name like as many people as you can from the top 20
That's in order it would be very difficult, but
in order, almost impossible.
yeah,
Yeah.
not in order I guess you could, but still quite difficult.
Yeah, but there are some interesting people like Bronstein or somebody, So
In
that
1982
you will never get. No, not in 1982. I think it was 1970 something,
okay.
74 maybe or 76. Yeah, but like people that you think that their best years were like 50s, sometimes in 70s they were still playing well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like we have an aunt on the list still, who is near top 10.
But I still consider Vichy like really an exceptional case in terms of like in chess history, in terms of his longevity. Like that's when we talk about, let's say, best players in history. For me, he's always quite high up on the list. Of course, like let's say top two or even top three, four are usually not disputed too much. It's like okay, Gary, Magnus, very often Anatoly. I mean, Bobby is usually number three, and then Karpov number four. Usually, this is like everyone's. Of course, there's always some exceptions, but like for me, Vichy would easily could be considered top five, and a lot of it is considered longevity because for me this is also a very very valuable thing. Not just like let's say Bobby had like the power, yeah, like he dominated completely, but he didn't have longevity, and like let's say some player like Korchnoi had incredible longevity, or Smyslov, for example, and this is a really valuable trait, which is sometimes a little bit not as let's say valued as dominance.
Yes, but in terms of dominance, Fischer was like his best period, like 2 3 years. He was like it was incredible. Like people could not make a draw with him.
Yeah, I think nobody else achieved this level of dominance. I mean, even when Gary was winning every single tournament he played, he still wasn't able to completely wipe out his opposition the way that Fischer did.
Yeah, but I think it also because Fischer was lucky. I mean, in the beginning of seventies, he had basically only one player who could fight him, Spassky. Petrosyan was already going down. Everybody was going down from the previous generation, and the next generation was going up by Korchnoi and Karpov, of course. But there was this gap for 3 4 years, and this happened to be his best years. So.
Yeah, I think this is the
So
thing that we can't really quantify it. It's like circumstances. Of course, a lot of chess players' careers are based on some circumstances. It's not their fault. Like say if they have some bad circumstances, and it's not something that we should take away from them if they have some like really lucky things. But we do underestimate how often some small details can change a career. I mean, for example, we'll never know, but what happens if Kasparov loses the match in '84? I mean, if the match, let's say,
yeah.
if he just lost one game, which was very possible and many moments, um, would we see the same chess history roll out the way it did? Okay, we can only speculate, but of course, circumstances like this, and also as you mentioned, like playing in an era of very very strong players or playing in an era where there's less competition is also definitely an important detail.
I remember now that when I entered the chess world in 2003, 2004, and I visited the tournaments where Vichy played, we always were like during dinners and walking in the park, we were always saying that he will play till 70 because he was always keeping his energy, like winning a game, making 2 draws, 3 draws, and winning a game. Then if you don't wanna fight, he's always ready for the draw. So keeping his cool always, and yeah, still cause he still can play some chess even now
Yeah, I think it'll be
that he's
interesting
not.
for like the current. It's not really old generation, but like my generation, which is already like we're not getting replaced, but there are young players who are coming up, and how long will last in the top of the chess world. This will be an interesting. I think Magnus, of course, will be tremendously strong for a very long time if he actually continues wanting to play. But
Yes.
other players who like let's say me, for example, or Jan or Anish, Wesley, all these players who are more or less the same or in the same age range, like how long will we be at the top is also going to be an interesting question.
Do you see anything new in this new generation? We're basically talking about Indian players, but also we have Abdusatorov, who has a bright future, I think, in chess, and also some other people. Do you see something new? Do they bring anything new to chess, to the elite chess?
Well, I think that Noterbeck is interesting because in some ways similar to Alireza, he's going for very practical chess. Like he's willing to take the fight, however however you can, even taking very serious
Mhm.
risks. I've seen this definitely with Alireza, like that's very noticeable, but also with Noterbeck. And I think the thing is like people will always criticize young players because they say they rely on the engine and they grew up with engines, but even with older players who now have to adapt, like everyone is reliant on the engine. It's actually impossible not to be. I mean, It's just too strong.
Of course.
You can't try to fight it. Like at some point, I worked with Belyavsky for a little period of time back in probably like 2009, I would say. So I was working with kind of older generation. Like I worked with Boris Gelfand also, and I worked with Razovayev, and
Hmm.
they did not like Belyavsky in particular did not want to look at the engine saying anything or telling him anything. So he was very stubborn. He would fight with the engine, and at the time it was possible to still
Mm.
fight on equal terms, at least in analysis. Maybe not in the practical game, but at least when you analyze, you could sometimes show that the engine is wrong about a position. But now it would just be silly to even try. So that's something that I don't think is at all the fault of young players. Uh, but they're going to struggle because, like, uh, like let's say I don't know how many years I have left of playing chess professionally, but they have more for sure, and they're going to have to deal with chess preparation, modern preparation, which is really tough. It's a real struggle these days. This is why Magnus is not trying to play a world championship match. I mean, he doesn't want to try.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean? It's the quantity of the theory, or what?
It's the simplicity of it. That's the main thing. Like if you want to get to the heart of a position very quickly, it doesn't take long and it doesn't take effort. And if you want to build a repertoire where you can try to shut the game down with either color, it is actually getting in that direction. It's almost there, I would say. Still, people mess up, and people sometimes have weird ideas of what to prepare or what to play. But if someone really wants to kill the game, and at some point we saw, I think that Jan that was his strategy against Magnus. I think that's what kind of fed Magnus up, like the Petrov, not even allowing the Italian, uh,
Hmm.
and basically sacrificing a pawn, for example, in the Catalan, just trying to get a position which is simplified where you can try to memorize the positions to a draw. Sometimes even analyzing up to like opposite colored bishop endgames, as we saw that this line goes like, for example, Jan playing against Hikaru like 8 games in the same endgame. Like we're really reaching that direction, and the more that people analyze, and there are so many people who are analyzing every single day and just kind of pressing uh, chess theory forward more and more, faster and faster, and yeah, there's not much like room for creativity. It seems that's at least it's very difficult. Of course, when you sit down at the board, suddenly you realize that of course chess is a huge game and everything opens up, and you don't remember something. You maybe you don't feel as comfortable in a position as you thought you did during analysis, and things always change. Like for example, in Tata Steel today, every single game is a huge fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like Jordan played a um, very theoretical line of the Italian, and somehow forgot something and ended up
Missed.
losing on move 8. And Pragnananta played some very crazy line, which is a bit dubious with white, and still got winning position, and so on. So things, of course, do happen, like accidents happen, let's say, even if you're super well prepared. But we're getting in that direction that it'll be difficult to come up with new ideas, and it'll be very frustrating to prepare, let's say, for a big event like a world championship match in particular, where you play one opponent, the guy or the woman will play like the tightest possible repertoire, just trying to shut the game down, and you have to break your head against this, thinking about it for months and months. It's not going to be easy.
Do you think that we are late with some changes, with some big changes to time control for the format of the tournaments or of the matches? Are we late with it? Do we need to change it?
I think that time controls are speeding up, and probably like the really slow classical time controls will have to at some point disappear. I'm talking about like what we had in Isle of Man. Um, 6
Like
hour,
7 hours, yeah.
yeah, seven
Six,
hours,
seven
six,
hours.
7. It's too much. This is like from a time when you would maybe start your game thinking on move 10, and now maybe you start your game thinking on move 20. So it just doesn't seem very logical. So I don't think classical chess has to disappear, but this time control where you really need to speed up and where a surprise in the opening could cause you problems and you have to make practical decisions, this is definitely needed. And we will also see, of course, that the transition to more rapid, more blitz, we're already seeing that, and it's going to continue.
Yeah, but still, you will play candidates. It's like 5 hours. Yeah, it became less time, but still, it's 5 hours time control. So, do you think it's okay for 5 hours time control, or do we need to push it down more?
I think we could push it down a bit more to more like World Cup time control. I guess it's like 90, 30, and then 30 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's pretty reasonable. And who knows, someday maybe everyone will be so frustrated that we'll be playing Fisher random chess, which I think also has a place. It's still fully chess, but you can't prepare. That's basically it. There isn't much of a downside to it.
Yeah, but with Fischer chess, we lose like the history of the game, no? Like start from scratch, from zero.
I don't think we have to completely eliminate normal chess. I just think that it would have a place in the world, and we're not destroying the rules of the game more than the integrity of the game. I mean, we still the best player in the world in normal chess will be the best player in Fisher Random, and if we go back in history, then we would probably also see the best players still be the best players. I think that like the idea that, let's say, some great champions like Gary or Karpov, that they were helped so much by their preparation, which I've definitely heard from both of them, is not entirely true. I still think they would have been the best player in the world, even if, of course, having the access to tools and having the best team, it is helpful. I mean, everyone does this. Magnus has a big team. Magnus takes his preparation very seriously. Every great champion wants to maximize their chances, but it's not like that's all they have for sure.
Sure, of course. But Fabiano, you're experiencing now maybe one of the best periods in your career, maybe the best. What has happened to you? How did you achieve this? It's like seems you're like flowing with the game and everything is going as expected. Let's say. Is
Well,
there a scenario you can say, oh yeah, I've started doing this and it helped. I've started doing this and it helped, or you just can't control it. It happens by itself.
I think part of it is circumstance for sure. It's some things that you can't fully control, and part of it is motivation. And definitely, if we look from, let's say, 2019, 2018-19, I was definitely playing at a pretty good level. And then when COVID started, my motivation dropped to zero. I just couldn't bear to look at chess. Uh, the reason why was mostly
Because you couldn't play. Sorry, because you couldn't play
um,
normally.
it was part of that. I wouldn't say that I couldn't play completely, but I definitely couldn't play normally, and nobody could. Like you would play a tournament and it would always be in the back of your mind, even up till 2022. Like I played in the Tada tournament in 2022, and I was working with Chuchilov there, so Vladimir Chuchilov. I think you also spoke. Did you speak to him? Yeah. And
Yeah.
so he was my coach for quite a long time, on and off, from even like early 2010 years. And so he was my coach at that tournament, and he got tested positive for COVID. And okay, then some kind of drama happens. They take him, they put him in different part of the hotel building, like they change his room. Uh, I'm suddenly alone. They're testing me twice a day. I feel like some sort of
Hmm.
guinea pig, you know. And
Uh,
and then they, like, before one of my games, which was like, the games start quite early. I think usually 1 o'clock, right? In Vikings.
yeah.
They want me to go to a neighboring city to get tested. Like I have to travel to another city to get a test and then go and play my
Hmm.
game. So of course, these things. It's not only me. I mean, I understand everyone had to deal with this, but it is very distracting from chess. And for me personally, it was just too much. I couldn't really handle it. And so yeah, after I regained my motivation, like let's say earlier this year, things got a bit better. I started to work more, started to enjoy playing and working, which is very important. I think just feeling good and enjoying the process is really the most important thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, like a lot of my ups and downs, I think, could be explained due to mood or motivation very often.
And motivation, you mean winning something or just playing well? Do you still have the motivation, for example, to win the classical world championship, or what is your motivation now?
Yeah, my motivation is more like internal, just trying to do my best to put the maximum effort in, and it's not always connected to like very concrete goals. But definitely, like if I had to mention a goal, it would of course be the world championship. And I did commentate on the match between Jan and Ding, and like watching it, I did have some thoughts which I didn't really share during commentary, of course, but the thoughts were like, uh, you know, of course these guys are both great players, but why am I not there? Why am I?
Why am I here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
why am I talking about it?
Yeah.
So it was also interesting because I really went into the games. Like I really looked at the games very closely. And normally when I'm watching events, it's more like I watch, I check a little bit, but I don't really immerse myself in the process the way that the players do. But I was really trying to immerse myself, thinking like, what are they preparing? What are they trying to avoid? I found the whole process very interesting, and more or less immediately after that, I had a good event. So of course, I can't say it was because of that, but immediately after that match, well, actually, all of us played in the Bucharest tournament. So Jan, Ding, they both came, and I went, and I was able to win that tournament. So I can't say, of course, it was a direct consequence, but I do feel like that was a moment when I had some introspection.
Yeah, but they were playing like not the best chess of their lives. Let's say,
Oh,
let's put it like this. So after that, I've heard that from a lot of people that they were saying, "Wow, I watched this match. Okay, let's start working. I can do this."
yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe we underestimate the pressure that they face.
Yeah, but you know the pressure. The pressure is high. Yeah.
I know, but I kind of forgot. It's been a few years, so it's easy to look. Actually, I make this mistake myself, and I've seen it from everyone. Like literally everyone I've ever worked with, talked to about chess. They look at players playing, and they think like, "Oh my god, these idiots! What are they doing?" And
Yeah.
I have the same thought, like,
Yeah.
well, all these mistakes, well, like I can do better than this. But of course, when you're actually there, it's much harder. So I try to take that into consideration. That, well, I mean, I also make mistakes and blunders when I sit down at the board. It's easy when, of course, you have the tools. You're calmly looking at the position, and you're saying, well, of course, this move is bad, and how could this player do it? But you sit down at the board and you have to make decisions for yourself in real time. It's a different story.
Yeah, of course, I've been only watching the World Championship match and got scared a lot. I mean, I watched quite a few of them, but it's the thing that it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch when none of your friends are playing there. Then it's okay. But if you are playing or you're participating in any kind or you're rooting for somebody, it's just hell. And that just never ends. I mean,
Yeah, it's
with all the do you think we should keep the match as a finish of the whole process?
I had a discussion with someone about this kind of internally. It was more or less when I was already qualified for this candidates, and then I had this discussion, like maybe it's time for a change. And of course, personally, I was thinking, well, okay, let's wait for the next cycle. Yeah, I mean, I've already qualified for this one. Let's not change it now. I'm already there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but from a purely objective point of view, not thinking about my own personal considerations in the current cycle, I think that we would probably see a more objective, like best player, if we had a different format. And I think the one reason why is because, of course, there is a champion's privilege that you have that every if you win, then you get to play a match. So you don't have to go through this cycle. Like if any player had to win candidates every single time to get to a match, I mean, nobody can do this. Magnus would, of course, be the best candidate to try to win candidates every time, but I don't think he would also succeed more than half the time. Probably less than half the time. That would be my guess. Just because it's such a difficult tournament and so many random factors can happen. Even
Sure.
when he won, right? Kremnik was right behind him
Very, very close.
and just had to make a draw against Ivanchuk in the last round. Um, of course, Magnus also just had to make a draw, so we can say all sorts of things, but
Yeah.
it was very close. It was very, very close.
Very close. Yeah.
Um, and like, can we say now that Ding is the best player in the world? Obviously not. Um, and can we say that he is better than um, anyone below Magnus? Like, let's say I can give you a bunch of names, and is he objectively better than Wesley, than Jan, than me, than Hikaru? Well, there's no objective reason to say that either. So something in the system obviously is not determining the best player.
But how do you think we can change it? Like the candidates should be, should we like eliminate the match or make a match after the candidate? Just in an ideal world where we can do anything we want.
I mean, I think a tour of standardized events would probably show. Like, let's say in an ideal world that you had FIDE organizing like 10 events a year, and players are actually motivated to play them because it's like really high prize fund, and it would be mostly classical chess, but it would also incorporate rapid and some blitz, then you would probably be able to say this is the best player of the year, without a doubt. Uh, and there would be probably
That's what
no.
I'm rooting for. Yeah.
I don't think there would be critics of the system. I don't think you could have critics because it's over the course of many events. It's not over like who won one event and then well, obviously the system was messed up last time because who got second place, right? But that's an accident. That's another story that Magnus didn't want to play. But yeah, if you have this like long tour that stretches throughout the year, that would definitely determine the best player.
Yeah, me too. I always say when I talk to Arkady Dvorkovich or Emil Sutovsky, I always say the same thing. Just there are so many good examples of how the sport life can be organized. We don't need to invent anything. Also, it could be these tournaments, this series of tournaments. It could be a real like boost for chess to invest a lot of to find somebody who can invest additional money in chess because we don't have anything new in chess. We still have these tournaments that are basically the same in Vaikanze, in Norway, somewhere else, in Dortmund, like they've been on forever. And nothing new is happening. Grand Chess Tour is happening. And if we talk about offline, like one tournament per 5-7 years appears, like Isle of Man. That's it. We don't have anything new.
Even Isle of Man is going back from, if we look at the earliest editions, I think probably first one was 2014. So
Yeah,
it's also
been 10 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
also a long time. We do see like some new events, like there was WR Masters. I don't know if it will continue, but it was a new event,
I don't know.
and yeah, it is.
It seems like no.
It's
It seems like the answer is no because it was in February, I think, last year. So
yeah, it's possible it's also discontinued. But you're right, we don't see so many new events, and even the Grand Chess Tour, which of course I don't want to criticize. I'm playing in all the Grand Chess Tour events, but it has had the same exact format since 2015, or at some point they had
something
like
like
a
that.
Final Four, but they even got rid of this, which made it a little bit less interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, where we see some, let's say, some progress is online. Fabian, what do you think about online? Really, honestly, I mean, is online chess is chess or not chess?
Well, it's chess, but it's not everyone is playing chess. Let's say that's the main issue. I mean, like when I talk about in an ideal world, like no cheating concerns in online chess, then of course it's a little bit different to look at chess on the screen, but it's not too different. And you still do see the same best players in the world. Like let's say the final of this Champions Tour was Magnus
Yeah.
won, Wesley was second. So you can't deny that Magnus is the best player and Wesley is one of the best players in the world. And then I lost to Magnus in semifinals and Noterbeck, also one of the best players in the world. And the final eight, more or less, with more or less one exception, consisted of the best players in the world. So there's not too many differences, but cheating is such a, of course, black mark on it, and we can't ever know. We can't ever know if someone is 100% fair or not. And the problem is that if they're 100% fair, there will always be some suspicion if they're playing too well. And if they're not 100% fair, we won't know for sure, but they are destroying the integrity of the game.
Yeah, but do you feel when you play a cheater? Do you feel it?
Sometimes I have a bad feeling. I can give like a few examples, but sometimes I have a bad feeling, and I'm not sure if this bad feeling is correct or not. Like I always doubt myself at some point, and sometimes I don't have a feeling, but then I actually realize that I probably did play a cheater. So I don't know if my intuition is something 100% to go by, but I at some point made like a new account on chess.com, and I went from like 0 to 3100. So I just
Uh, Anonymous account or
yeah, anonymous. I mean, I
okay?
told them like, don't ban me. I told them privately like, don't ban me. This is me, and
Okay.
then I just went from 0 to 3100. So I think more or less going through the ranks, at some point the most cheaters that I encountered who were banned, so I got my points refunded, were around the 1800 level. So I think
1800?
yeah, 1800. That was when I encountered the most cheaters. Like I would say
Really?
about one in
Wow.
four were banned.
I thought that on this level they never cheat, no? Oh, no,
I mean,
no,
this
no.
this is just like my points were refunded. They told me I didn't even. Of
Mm.
course, I probably should have found it weird that I'm losing some games to 1800s, like quite
Yeah.
often. but but sometimes you like lose so badly to a computer that you think like I must be an idiot. Like how could I do this? But it's just that the level difference is too big. It's like if
Yeah.
I play 1400, it will be a wipeout. And in the same way, when a computer plays me, it will be a wipeout, and you won't even know what hit you. It's just like a truck hitting you. So yeah, that was like 1 in 4. That got banned for sure. Uh, and then eventually I managed to raise my rating, and I stopped playing on the account. But it was an interesting
Stop playing.
experiment.
But what was the experiment? What was the idea?
Well, I actually just wanted to see if, like which levels people cheat at.
Ah, okay. Do they cheat? Like, what do you think? Do they cheat on like higher levels, or you don't have any
I had some
conclusive
suspicions
proofs?
when I was playing some grandmasters. Like this is purely non. I didn't play any Title Tuesday. I didn't play any prize money events.
Hmm?
This was just casual chess. And yeah, some grandmasters I did have some feelings, but I don't know if those feelings were valid or not. Um, it's I also play like a lot of over the board blitz. Let's say training with grandmasters, and of course I'm vulnerable to losing to players who are lower rated than me. So I sometimes play with someone who's like 2600, and the player is capable of beating me and often does, and so on. So it's not like I'm thinking that I'm invincible or anyone's invincible. For sure not. Uh, but if we look at okay, I don't want to get into a whole statistics discussion. Of course, we can talk about numbers all day long, but definitely when we're talking
Yeah.
about like prize events, there are some weird things that happen, and it's just like very evident from looking at like who are the most successful players are. Uh, some things look a bit strange.
Yeah, but why do you still play online? That's what I always ask everybody. Why do you still play if you are not sure if this title Tuesday is? I see sometimes you post something that you lost a game to some to some not very strong player, but you've gotten wiped out. What's the purpose of playing? It's like the community thing, or what's the idea?
Well, when it comes to like the rapid events, those I'm taking seriously. Like I'm trying to do well, and I don't know how prevalent cheating is. Like for sure, let's say we look at Champions Chess Tour last year. There were definitely
Yeah,
some players cheating. I don't know the number. I don't know. Maybe it was like 0.5%. This was all like cameras
yeah,
and everything. Um, so let's say the strictest measures that chess.com offers. So Title Tuesday is like nothing, right? I mean, no cameras, nothing.
yeah.
The online rapid events, of course, there's some measures. These I try to take seriously because I assume that if I play a cheater, it probably won't be too often. It's like
Okay.
it might ruin my tournament, but still, I do have a chance. And well, I was trying to win those events. Like I got to the final eight. I did my best.
Yeah,
I lost to Magnus, um, but I did take those as like very serious competitive tournaments. When it comes to Title Tuesday, I basically just can't help myself. Like I understand I'll probably be playing like each Title Tuesday a minimum of two cheaters, like absolute minimum.
that's what you think, yeah?
I'm almost 100% convinced that I will play a minimum of two cheaters, unless I'm very lucky
Okay.
and I just avoid them somehow. And that's, by the way, not assuming like the guys who are like regular people. I assume or suspect are regular cheaters. Like
Yeah,
those guys, you basically can't avoid, but they might not
yeah.
cheat against you also, so you can kind of take your chances there. Um,
Yeah, but it's very odd for me, you know. So you know that there are cheaters. You know that they could spoil your mood or just take your money. I mean, I understand it's not like money. It's not like we're talking about millions of dollars, but still. And but also your feeling. I mean, and also we have some players that let's name the fact that everybody knows that they're cheating and we're still playing them. I mean, that's something that really surprises me, really amazes me.
well, if I don't play, it doesn't help the situation. If I do play, it at least gives me a better idea of like what's going on. And of course, it does spoil my mood, but usually for a very short period of time. I get angry for 10 minutes. Like
Yeah,
last Title Tuesday, I lost I think 3 games from 6 or something like that. I left the tournament because it was kind of pointless,
yeah,
and yeah, I was out. Every once in a while, I do actually play well, and I get some small prize money, which I is of course not my like ultimate goal to make like $100, $300 or whatever.
sure, sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
but those actually give me a good mood. Like, okay, I got second place in this minefield. It's actually an accomplishment. The last time I won one
Yeah, for sure.
was like, I don't know, a year ago or something. I'm not exactly sure.
Where do you stand on really on Kramnik position? Like if we say that Kramnik is 100% saying about cheaters, about the online world, that like I don't know, every other player is a cheater, like everything he said on my channel, on your channel. Like, where do you stand now on this? Are you getting closer to this to his measures, or you going down?
Well, I think there's two measurements. One is, let's say, is he right in his conclusion, and is he right in his analysis? So he could be completely right in his conclusion, but his analysis could be all off. And I think that's actually very likely, because one problem that he has is that he really trusts the chess.com accuracy scores.
Yes,
And I
that's true.
don't, I think we spoke about this also. I spoke about this with him. Like, I don't think that this metric, it's helpful, it's a tool, but I don't think that we should really be making conclusions off of that. But his conclusion about that there's like massive cheating problem, I don't know what his number is of how many cheaters or how often they cheat, but of course that's correct. I mean, this we're on the same page. The question is, like, what can you actually do about it? Because of course, yeah, you can kind of post about it online, but if you post just like accuracy scores, I don't see what it says. Like, it doesn't convince me of anything. Like, if you post the accuracy scores of some player, I don't get convinced that that player was cheating in that event. Uh, I think that, of course, like, if it's an extreme example, let's say like some player has 98% chess.com accuracy in every game. Okay, this is impossible in Tile Tuesday. But I've very often seen that the games that I consider good, like when I analyze them, are valued at like 89% accuracy, and the games which I consider kind of uneventful or even sometimes not very good could be 92% accuracy.
Sure.
Because whatever it measures, I don't fully know, and I don't think that it's indicative of the level of play. And also because if I really want to cheat, I can lower my accuracy, and I promise it would be very easy to do this. I could lower it to whatever I want. I could incorporate blunders, and as long as I just keep control of the game, which I would be able to do by
Mhm.
using a computer, I can make the game as bad as possible and still beat someone, just because I make it super complicated in a position where everyone will blunder on every move. Like, if you can steer the game in any direction, it's more or less like kind of painting a picture, right? You're the artist, and your opponent is some sort of subject, and they don't have any control over what you're doing. So uh, if I really wanted to cheat, then you would never tell by accuracy scores. Maybe you would be able to tell by, for example, like how good I play in critical moments. Like, am I able to kind of, when only one move is winning, am I
Mhm.
able to find that move? Things like that. I mean, we would go deeper into kind of some metrics of my games or someone else's games. Uh, but like playing a super accurate draw, okay, like what does that really mean? Or like a super dry game that ends in 95% accuracy. Doesn't I might not even win this game, right?
Yeah. But what can we do? What can Chess.com do? Because we think that at some point I talked to Eric. I made an interview with Eric, and I think they're trying to do something. But as long as I think about it, the more I think about it, I understand that it's so easy to cheat. It's almost like if you have enough brain just to and you have enough uh, chess quality, like to understand what is going on the board. It's like almost impossible to catch you.
Yeah, it's difficult to catch it over the board. Um, Now, online, I think it's impossible. I mean, because what they do to detect over the board cheating is they're like checking for, they're using thermal scanners. They're using some scanner which detects if something on you is conducting an electrical current. Things like
Mhm.
that. I mean, a camera is not enough. They have nobody that can check what's on someone's person. Like, let's say some sort of device which is yeah, giving an indication of a move. It could be in my pocket if I'm playing online. I mean, even with cameras, it could be just a blind spot of the room. which is the most basic way, right? If we're not even using some
Mhm.
technology, right? Just my friend is just holding up a sign with the move, and the camera doesn't show that part of the room.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of ways to do
million
it. Yeah.
ways. So, does their algorithm can their algorithm detect cheating over a long period of time from a grandmaster who knows how to make it look as natural as possible? I would suspect like no chance. And especially the stronger it gets, stronger the player gets, because at some point we go into players like uh, let's say Magnus level or Hikaru or Jan level, players who can actually play perfect chess on occasion. Not all the time, but they can play
Yeah.
perfect chess on occasion. So then they play a perfect game, and you think, well, is this a cheater
What is going on? Yeah.
or is this just a top player, right? So and then they actually have results over the board and online, so you don't see like a huge difference, like a slight difference maybe, and then
Yeah.
we'll like, okay, well they got informed, they improved their results a tiny bit, and this happens all the time over the board, right? Like my results were bad, and then last year they got better. Hikaru's results in 2019 were bad, and then in 2020, 2021 they got better. So what are you going to say, that players can't improve? So of course, when it's a top player, like there's no chance. You basically need to have, yeah, like someone in the room, a proctor, and you'll never be able to tell, as far as I can say, as far as I can see from statistical analysis or analyzing whatever algorithm they have. What they can do, it would not relate to top players. That's hopeless. Um, they could implement like really strict punishments, so at least they dissuade people from trying. Um,
Yeah.
like
That's what they should do. Yeah.
I think so. I've told them as well that I think that right now, what's the punishment? You get banned privately.
No punishment
Yeah,
at all,
you don't return
basically.
any money, and then you re-enter the chess scene as though you never left. Maybe some people know or suspect, but do they really know for sure? And it's not really public. So I think what they probably should do is like, I don't know if lifetime ban is too strong, but at one thing I suggested to them was a lifetime ban until they return the money. So as fast as you return the money, you can play the very next day. But you have
All money that you won on the platform.
yeah, or if they know exactly where you cheated, then they can kind of gauge that.
Mhm.
But I would actually assume, since you can't know exactly where they cheated, then you would probably have to assume all the money that they won.
Yeah, yeah.
For some people, it's actually hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like there are players who have won that much, and even from players I suspect, there are definitely tens of thousands have been won. And the other thing is just not to have like a money thing, but okay, you're banned for like 2 years. You can't play on our platform, and then after 2 years, we'll give you an account back, and it's also public, so people know. That's pretty strict as well. It could be 2 years, it could be whatever you think. I think for Feller it was more than 2 years, like when Feller cheated at the Olympiad.
On the Olympiad. Yeah.
Um, but definitely you can't have like anonymous ban for from prize events. You can very often still play on the site, and and if you confess, then at some point you're let back on, and nobody knows, and you don't have to pay any money back. Okay, this I don't think that this is a real punishment.
Do you see any future in online chess? Like if for example, think about 2035, there will definitely be a tournament in January in Vaikanze. I'm pretty sure. But will there be some really professional online chess with more prizes? Because for some time we see now also some how do we say it, stagnation, that nothing is moving forward. Like Chess.com doesn't invest too much new money in chess. We see some lead chess tournaments, but they are the same like 5 years ago, and nothing else is happening. Do you see any real potential in online world, or the cheating thing is killing it basically?
I don't think that the cheating will kill it, and I actually had a discussion this morning with a friend of mine about American football. So it's
Yeah.
I basically just asked him like, uh, are athletes using performance enhancing drugs in American football?
Okay.
And okay, the guy's a football player, so he knows, and he trains football players as well. And he was like, yeah, of course. And they get around
Mhm.
testing by like cycling, so they time it so that they know that they won't test positive.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, why doesn't the league um, do something about it. Why don't they? Because he said that some players retire, so they can't get tested, and then they re-enter, like they unretire when they
Mm.
need to play again. I was like, why don't they just make it so that when you retire, you can't play again for 2 years, something like that. And he was like, well, the league, they don't actually care. I mean, uh, they have like a big star. They don't care if I mean, fair play is some sort of concern. They would prefer it to be clean, but what they really want is that the show goes on, so the money is being made. Um, because of course it's a business, right? I mean, you can't blame a business for trying to make money. So the only question is um, not about like will the tournaments be clean, but will the tournaments be watched? That's the most important thing, and people will watch. I mean, for sure. Like if you have Magnus and Hikaru playing, I mean, unless it gets completely out of control, where you have where you have everyone cheating to the point that Magnus, Hikaru, and all the other best players in the world are simply out of it, and
Hmm.
we're never going to get to that point because, of course, people will want to cheat in a way which they don't get noticed. And then you'll still see the best players being the best players, but you'll see some guys who are quietly picking up a few $1,000s here and there and making a good name for themselves as like great players. They're able to compete with the best players. They're not trying to beat the best players. They're not trying to be Magnus. They're not trying to be dominant, but they're trying to get second place here, fifth place there, and sometimes just have a good tournament. They don't make any money, but they beat a few strong players. It's good for their stream, let's say, if they're streaming. It's good for their brand, and everyone's happy. The guys who make a little bit of money are happy. The top players are still making their money, and the viewers are happy to watch. So
And Kramnik will still be the only one who is fighting.
Kramnik will not be happy in this scenario, but you know, um, most people will still be okay with the whole situation.
Yeah, I still think that he is right in his assessment, but we need to find a way to deal with it. That's what you are saying, and what I'm thinking. We need to find a way for everybody to be more or less happy to live the normal life, but Chesscom has to do much more than they're doing now and have to be more strict with the players, with the punishments, with the cameras, with the headphones, with everything. I mean, they have to make the life of a thief much harder. And then we will see some cheating, but we will not see cheating as much as now because now it's basically ridiculous. I mean, it's funny that that's not what I really wanted to talk to you about. I want to talk about chess, but we are talking about cheating because it's the main thing now in chess, unfortunately, and that's thanks to Vladimir and myself as well. But still, I mean, everybody's talking about it now. Yeah, if you talk with somebody about chess, yeah, you talk about positions and tournaments, and then you talk about who is a cheater. Basically, it's very interesting. Is this one a cheater? Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say from my discussions with chess players, basically everyone thinks there's a big cheating problem. And the numbers will vary. Like, let's say if you ask Maxime, he'll give you some number, whatever it is. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I'll give you some other number, like this percentage is cheating. I said 50% in Tile Tuesday. Okay, this is, I kind of said this off the cuff. Like, I don't know, of course, if it's 50% or 40 or
Sure.
60 or whatever.
But that's your feeling, yeah? It's just
Yeah.
your
Well, basically, this was me saying that it is very widespread.
yeah.
Okay, I think it's like a disease. Yeah, it can spread more or it could spread less, but it's definitely going to spread. And then you'll ask some other player, and like I've heard some really wild estimates. Like some very strong players think that it's like 80% of players in Tile Tuesday cheat. I mean,
Like
I've heard this.
everybody is cheating.
Yeah, basically at that point everybody is. I think that what Vladimir said, that like if one player cheats, it incentivizes others to cheat, is correct, because if you have like the kind of culture of paranoia, like everyone is suspicious of someone, then very often you will have those players who think, I'll just cheat against this person because they're also cheating. Like this
Yeah.
this is definitely a thing which can occur. Like, okay, this guy has beaten me 6 times in a row. Obviously, it's a cheater. I'll just cheat this time, just for this game, which also makes you a cheater. I mean, if you are cheating, even if your opponent is cheating, like you still are destroying the integrity of the game. Like I would still consider this a case of cheating from both parties.
Of course, of course.
Um, okay, it becomes advanced chess and it becomes some sort of mockery of the game, of course, at that point. But I think at that, if you really think that everyone's cheating and it bothers you to the point that you can't play normally, then you should just not play, or you should accept that you will play cheaters and you'll lose to them, and that's that. That's those are the two options. Yeah, I would say. Um, but yeah, everyone I spoke to, from top players uh, to strong grandmasters to even anti-cheating people in like not necessarily chess.com, but in other organizations. Uh, and probably the problem of cheating doesn't just stop at a certain level. Like I don't think it stops at, let's say, 2600. Like everyone above 2600 is clean. I would say it probably in one form or another has like maybe some certain time period, maybe for a short period of time, has probably reached the top 10. Like someone in the top 10 has cheated at some point. I would bet a lot on this, and I don't
For
see it
sure,
happening
why
currently,
not?
let's say, but at some point, yeah, I would definitely assume so.
I would also think that what I'm thinking now is that somebody is beating you like 6 times in a row, and you don't think he's a cheater, but you just say, "Okay, I'll show you now how I play chess." You just, as a revenge, you just switch on the computer, win a couple of games, and then, okay, that's I can do this. I mean, it's so easy. That's what I'm saying. The problem now is that to cheat, it is so easy, and if you have a little bit of understanding of the game is just I mean, on any level, it's just basically, if you know the game, it's very easy, and to prevent it, you need to have some very strong feelings, but okay, we'll see how it develops. Fabiano, just one last thing I want to talk about. You mentioned you worked with some Russian grandmasters, coaches. What was your experience with, let's let's call it, Soviet chess school, as we call it here? Is this a thing, really, a Soviet chess school? What do you think?
Well, I would say that I definitely experienced what you would call Soviet chess school, and I also worked with Russian players who I wouldn't consider Soviet chess school, like younger Russian players, for example. Like for quite a long time, I've worked with Grigory Oparin. I
You
think,
are working with him now, or
yeah,
not?
we've been working together for already about a year, I guess. And
Okay,
okay, he's like 20, mid to late 20s. But okay, wouldn't call him Soviet chess school, let's say. And also, of course, modern preparation is a bit different. But
sure.
when I was growing up, one of my first coaches after Bruce Pandolfini was Miran Sher. So he was working in New York for a long time. He coached many of the best uh, young American players, like myself at the time. Robert Hess as well was one of his students, who also became quite a strong grandmaster. And
Sure.
so this is like, let's say, my first kind of experience with Soviet chess school. But my clearest experience was probably with Alexander Chernin, because he would give me positions and just tell me to calculate for like whatever it took. Yeah, you see a position and then you just calculate. If it takes 3 hours, it takes
Hmm.
3 hours, and I would sit there basically all day calculating. And if you don't reach the end, then you get as far as you get, and you continue later. Um, but you basically have to. So I haven't done this kind of training since then, basically, because it's not very fun. Like you try to
Sure.
work out all the details of a position, however many hours it takes, and you don't talk to anyone about it. Like very often, the sort of normal way of solving positions is to discuss, with someone. Like you're kind of working out the details together. But this was definitely not how it worked. It was like you're entirely on your own, just like a chess game, but you also have to find your opponent's moves, which makes it kind of doubly difficult. So this was my clearest memory of what, okay, I would assume is like Soviet chess school. A lot of notebooks, all handwritten, and even the diagrams are handwritten, which I guess takes a lot of
Yeah,
time.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And then you take these positions out, and for sure some of them haven't been checked by an engine, so some of them maybe have some mistakes. But if there are mistakes, then you should probably also figure those out. And okay, besides that, of course, one of my most formative coaches was Boris Slotnick, who was international.
You worked with Boris
Yeah,
Zlotnik?
yeah, yeah. I think he's still coaching. We
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
in
sure.
touch sometimes.
I played poker with his son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I met his son as well. Of course, his son was quite a bit
He's
older
a
than me.
funny guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with him for like I guess it was almost 2 years. So that was like one of my biggest periods of improvement from let's say 2004 to 2006, more or less, somewhere around those years. And he was a great coach. Like all my coaches, I do think helped me a lot in terms of improving as a player when I was young. And and yeah, also of course Vladimir Chuchilov. For many years we worked together, but that was already when I was a stronger player. So it was more of like I wasn't a kid anymore. Yeah, I wasn't like being guided entirely. So it was more like a working relationship where he's giving me input and I'm giving him feedback and so on. And
Sure.
so we worked from 2000. Actually, it was quite a long time. Okay, 2010, I think we started, and 2015 we stopped working, and then we picked up a little bit after that. But he was also working with Anish Giri at the time, so there was some rivalry as well with because we were both young players.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been very interesting, of course, to work with so many great teachers, also so many great players. I think everyone goes through this, but of course we all have our memories of like who was most influential on our chess, on our style, and so on.
Do youngsters do the same now? Do they hire teachers, or do they like work with computer and that's it?
I
How does
think
it
they
work now?
do, but I'm not sure about all of them. Like let's say Pragnanta, I think he works with Ramesh, who is
Mhm.
like let's say biggest coach in India, right? Coaching many of Indian talents. Um, and like I saw Noterbeck working with Rustam Kazimjanov as well. But I don't know exactly like how many are working entirely on their own. For example, there are some players, or even among my generation, like Wesley, you almost never hear of him working with someone.
Yeah, yeah. He
So
says he works by himself. He
yeah,
says that. I don't know.
yeah, probably he works mostly by himself. Even Hikaru, like for a very long time, he said that he didn't trust anyone, so he wasn't going to work with anyone. And of course, he at some point started to work with people, but definitely like I think Hikaru was giving this reputation to American chess players, like completely individualist, not working with anyone, very suspicious of others, just like Fischer was. Um,
Fisher School, yeah.
yeah, that's if we can call it like Fischer School. I think, of course, it's more helpful to work with people to learn from them, but definitely it helps to have this kind of like belief in yourself. Like you're the one who really controls your destiny, not others. So you're not trying to give responsibility away to others. Like it's really um and as someone I had to learn this for myself. Like I don't blame whatever happens, I don't blame someone I'm working with. Even if they gave me some terrible advice or did some terrible work, it's still on me. I have to make the decision to take their advice or I'm the one making moves at the board. So it's important at least to have this or learn this lesson that you're not trying to pass blame to others or pass responsibility to others.
I've heard that many times that the more the career goes on, the more people are starting to think that okay, I need to work alone. Okay, I need to work alone. I need to get rid of all the seconds. I've heard that from many people, including Kramnik, including Kasparov. No, Kasparov was always working with some, but also Kasparov, like last 10 years, he worked basically only with Dohoyan, one person.
Yeah, I think that very often you have some bad experience and it can turn you off. And you think like I can't deal with this anymore. I can't deal with someone else messing me
Uh,
up. But you have to I think look at it as like an individual experience. So it didn't work out with someone. Maybe it was even didn't work out tragically, like it was cost to do some super important tournament or some match or but yeah, that doesn't mean that it will always be the case. Like if you're always on your own, I mean, first of all, it's very lonely. Let's say you're playing a
yeah.
tournament on your own. It's very lonely and it is kind of depressing. And I think the main thing you need to avoid during a tournament is to become depressed. This is the worst. I mean, you lose your energy, and so it's very important to have someone there who at least like is giving you energy, some positive emotions. Not, of course, if they're taking all your energy away, then you need to stop working with them for sure. That's also possible. If someone is too dominating, they can kind of try to dominate the relationship. They can always impose themselves,
Mhm.
and it takes away your energy.
But that's very individual things. Yeah? You need to find your person at some point. I mean, it changes during your life, during your career. Sometimes you need some adult person, then you need somebody who is young, maybe younger than you, to just uh, to to create some new ideas, new understanding of chess. That was actually my first question. Do you think that new generation, they have some new way of thinking, or you think that no, I don't see anything new? They just like when Ivanchuk came on the scene in the beginning of 90s, Kramnik came, they brought some, Anand came, they brought something new, they brought some new ideas. You came with Magnus, with Karyakin, Nepomniachtchi, with everybody, also some new chess. Do they bring something new to the game,
Maybe it's too
or
early
it's
to
still to?
tell, because if you ask me right now, I would probably say no. But you're asking me about 18-year-old chess players. Like, they haven't even had the time to find their own game. So how
Yeah,
can they really create something new? I think that we will see in a few years if something like really kind of revolutionary comes out, but it might always be connected to revolutions of the engine. Like, okay, if we talk
mhm,
about like super influential players, like you mentioned Kramnik or Magnus or Gary, right? They
mhm,
definitely imparted something new to the game. Um, like I think that Kramnik as a player, I mean, of course, he had the great accomplishments, but also one of his great contributions were all his opening innovations. I mean, like if you think about so many of the trends that persist today, I'm not just talking about Berlin defense. Of course, it's one of them,
sure.
but he had a vision for the game that you can call it revolutionary in some ways, for sure. Um, and also you see it with Magnus, that Magnus came up with something a little bit different, like trying to take the opening into a stage where he's more comfortable. He's not. It's not like this power chess like Gary had, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to knock
Mhm.
your opponent out. It's a bit different, but it's just as valid. In fact, for our modern chess, it's probably more valid because you can't knock your opponent out anymore. The kind of style of preparation where you try to get a huge advantage from the opening with the white pieces, like Gary was often doing, just doesn't exist. You can't do this because the engine will lead all the players to a safe path. But what Magnus is trying to do, and I've seen it, especially in his matches, he's always trying to innovate a little bit. Like in his match against me, he looked for the place where I couldn't take it to direct preparation with the black pieces.
Mhm.
So the Sveshnikov Rosalimo complex, and I did kind of manage to do this anyway because we were working very hard to find a way to do this. But basically, in the Rosalimo, black can make any move, and they're all sort of valid. And the computer will say black is slightly worse here, and so on.
Mhm.
But it's always a
Mhm.
position. So that's what he was trying to do: take it to like non-concrete territory where he has room to be creative. And will we see this sort of like new idea from the new generation? I don't know. I don't know if there's even room for creativity anymore with like how much
That was my question, actually.
I've been actually thinking about this a little bit myself because very often we end our analysis based on numbers that we don't understand, which is like I understand.
What do you mean?
So when I analyze, at some point I have to end my analysis, and of course I understand what like plus two means by the engine. Plus two means that white is winning. White is going to win this game, except if it's like some bizarre situation where
Mhm.
somehow the computer is really not estimating correctly. But uh, but if I tell you like what is point 0.3, now of course you can't tell me like what this means, except you can say white is slightly better, and that's usually
Depends on the position also.
yeah, it depends on the position. But very often people can't understand the position because it's chess is very complex. But they kind of they basically give the responsibility to the engine. So it says point 0.3. This
Mhm.
means okay, it's something good for us. So we put slightly better, and we move on. Like this is a success.
Yeah,
And of course, if I showed you without the engine, you would have no idea what the evaluation is. Point 0.3 minus point
sure.
0.3. It takes a lot of work to understand if it's actually easier to play for one side or easier to play for another side, which is what I would call point 0.3. Like point 0.3 should mean this is a slightly easier position to play for me. I'm less likely to make mistakes, and this gives me a better equity in terms of trying to win this game.
Mhm.
Uh, but there are certainly positions where the engine will show point 0.3, but it's harder to play for the white side.
Yeah.
which means that we're actually doing something that's not helpful for us. We're aiming for a position where it's harder to play for us. And I think this could be kind of the new um, direction where people will try to find creativity in terms of searching for positions where, and I do this myself sometimes, but it's very difficult. Searching for positions where the engine says that some side is better, but actually it's easier to play for the other side. So
I always thought that's Jan's approach, that he chooses the not especially like the first or second line, even the third line or fourth line. It doesn't matter, but he knows everything in this line and he understands the line. And yes, he is getting not point three, he's getting minus point three, but still he understands the position. He knows what's going on. He knows the plans, and he basically understands what could be the reaction of the opponent. So I think it's already on this strategy.
yeah, no, for sure. Like players have opted for this, um, but I have noticed even in the last year, because engines have kind of changed in the last year, and they change very quickly. That these days,
Again, yeah.
oh yeah, yeah,
Oh,
like very quickly. Even the last 6 months, I would say, and I'm not the only one who's noticed this. I've talked to Mike Seconds, for example, about this. What
okay.
I've noticed even more so is that now, like when the engine does show these evaluations, it sort of seems easier to play for one side. So it's becoming even more difficult to find these areas where maybe the engine is from a practical point of view misevaluating. But definitely, this is that players are something that players are trying to do. But it's very easy to get trapped in the engine evaluation. Like it's especially because you always have to keep your brain turned on, and it's not easy
Yeah.
to always do this. To always be kind of active, looking at a position, thinking about it, not just relying on the numbers. Um, Anyway, we'll definitely see what I think the candidates will be interesting from this perspective because um, that's where like people bring their biggest ideas, and and it will be very difficult to have ideas. So people will have to work very hard. We'll see the fruits of that labor. Okay,
Also, we'll see so many new faces.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Three Indian players, Sabasov. I mean, it's gonna be a good tournament.
I can't say that I'm like interested in it from an outsider perspective because I'm not. I'm kind of involved. So I can't talk about like individual players. Like it's interesting how Prague
Sure.
will do, because of course I want them all to do badly. but
Sure.
for sure we have a lot of interesting faces there. Prague first time playing candidates, Vidit first time playing candidates, Gukesh first time, Abasov first time, and then some players who one player in the middle who is in the middle of the inexperienced and experience, which is Ali Reza, right? He has one candidate under his belt, but he's still very young. And then we have
Yeah.
the old guys. Hikaru is leading, and then Jan and myself, like in terms of age, yeah. So Hikaru's like 36, I guess. Jan is probably 33, and I'm
Yeah,
31.
Hikaru seems like a veteran, like an old guy from the, from the past. Now, it's interesting the chess became, I mean, there are no players that are 40 now. I mean, there are like Levon and Grishuk, but they're not playing much. Grishuk hasn't been playing much this year. Levon is not playing so good. So Jan is basically the oldest participant of the Wake now.
Hikaru, I guess you mean, yeah? Or
No, in the Wake Anzei.
oh, in Vike, yeah, of course, yeah.
In Vike, yeah. He's the oldest participant, being 34 or
Oh,
something,
I didn't think about that.
33.
That's very funny
Yeah, that's very funny. Yeah,
because
it's very funny because there is the new generation, the old generation is gone. So there is only your generation of you and Magnus and Jan, and you're already the old guys.
yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't feel like I'm old, but
No, for sure, you are you are what? You are
31.
31, yeah,
Yeah, 31.
31. I mean,
But I do feel like yeah, we are the veterans in a sense. Actually, Jan is an interesting case because he, uh, compared to let's say players around his age, he did develop quite late in terms of a top player. So
exactly.
probably the first time that we would call him like top player is 2019,
Yes,
I would say,
exactly.
when he broke like 2770 or so, and he also qualified for the candidates, and
Mhm.
more or less already like 2 years later he was playing a world championship match. So he bridged this gap of like being a little bit behind the others and being at the very top very quickly. And maybe it's not a surprise because of course his natural ability is equal to all the other top players, like let's say um, Maxime, for example. Like we talk about like extreme natural ability, right? Jan is definitely up there. but maybe he was like distracted or something from chess to give it his full effort. And then once he gave it his full effort, he was up there with the very best. But it's interesting that he went from like breaking into the top and then almost immediately becoming one of the veterans. So it's kind of things move very very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, yeah. But I think his way, his path is can give somebody a hope. Yeah, that if you are talented, if you have something, that at some point you can gather yourself together and hire coaches, make a team, and go forward, and you can actually have an amazing success. Of course, he wants to be a world champion, but everybody does. So, but still, he played two matches, won two candidates. That's
Yeah, winning
if you
two
say,
candidates.
if you tell me in 2017 or in Tina, I would have laughed. I mean, it's
Yeah,
impossible to happen.
no, I remember because he the first time I played candidates, he was doing the press conferences, and in Moscow it was 2016,
Yeah,
the one which Sergei Karyakin won. And still he wasn't considered, like, he was a very strong player, but he wasn't considered top player. And then
no,
in
of course
2018 he
not.
was stronger, but he was doing kind of coverage the same way that I did coverage of his matches. He was doing coverage of the candidates in 2018, and then the very
No,
next,
he was doing the coverage of the match, of your match with
but
Magnus.
also candidates, I think, wasn't he?
Ah, also
I
candidates.
think
Yeah,
so. And but maybe it also gave
he
him some like belief in
he
himself.
told me it did. He told me it did. He told me it did.
It
That
could
he
be.
could play. That he could do it.
I mean, he definitely proved it already. Next candidates, he won convincingly, right? 2020, and even more convincingly 2022. So I think 2020 was not like as kind of smooth because he had this period where he was losing to Maxime in the middle. But 2022, you basically can't point to any other player who existed in this tournament besides Jan.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Very professional.
I mean, everyone else was like just a step or even several steps behind. So this was very impressive, of course. But we'll see what happens in the next candidates. It's going to be
Yeah,
interesting.
we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. April, Toronto. I intend to come. And okay, Fabiano, thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you all the best. And many, many people in Russia are rooting for you. So,
Yeah,
and
thank
thank you
you.
for what you're doing. And thank you for what you're doing for chess with all the postcards, interview. I watch almost everything you do, and it's fun, it's educative, it's interesting, and I love people who love chess.
Thank you, Ilya. Thank
That's
you for having me on, and thanks for your kind words.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.